Stablecoins have been going crazy. I don't think that I need to tell you guys that at this point. I mean, you guys have been watching the YouTube channel over the last couple weeks, and let's just be honest. Stablecoins are definitely a part of almost every single discussion because they are just that big around crypto. I mean, listen, this is a big enabler of almost everything that we talk about. If we're talking about trillions of dollars flooding on chain, guess what? We don't get there without stablecoins. If we're talking about mass adoption of crypto, guess what? We don't get there without stablecoins. Stablecoins it's going to accelerate and basically enable everything that we talk about when it comes to XRP or any, utility-based project. And today, well, we continue to see huge moves happening. For an example, Bank of America CEO says the bank is developing its own crypto stablecoin. Again, we've been hearing about this for quite some time. I think that the first major sign that this was going to happen was back in January, where Bank of America CEO said, we are ready to go all in on crypto payments if regulators allow it. Then I think it was back in March when the Bank of America CEO said that they are actually looking into launching a stablecoin as soon as they possibly can, of course, with regulatory approval. So now this continues to be an ongoing topic. But what's crazy about this is stablecoins today, and I just talked about this actually in a video recently, they're nearing $3 trillion in monthly transfer volume. At what point are we going to say that this is the new money? This is that digital fiat revolution that we were talking about for years. Everyone was scared of CBDCs. Guess what? We now have stablecoins. Stablecoins are the CBDC. Stablecoins are programmable digital fiat currency on chain. And it's happening. It's happening before our eyes, and it happened so fast. I mean, over the last 12 months, stablecoins have definitely erupted in a huge way to the point where it's almost impossible to ignore. Back in 2022, I think that was the first major sign that stablecoins were the future. Why? Well, because we did hit over, I think it was like $11 trillion in yearly overall transfer volume, which was rallying Visa at the time as well, and of course MasterCard. And today, well, we already know that we blew them both out of the water, and stablecoins are everywhere. And the stablecoin race is definitely on. Everyone is looking at stablecoins. They want to launch a stablecoin. Even, US banks are now wanting to launch stablecoins. And also, we continue to see more and more stablecoin launches by some big players. Like, for an example, SocGen just launched a US dollar stablecoin on Ethereum and Solana. And by the way, if this name is very familiar with you, it's probably because this is the same bank that's launching its USV stablecoin on the XRP ledger in this year. We didn't really hear any big update on this, but I'm definitely still focused on it because, of course, SG Forge is still working with Ripple custody actually, and I'm still focused on this stablecoin because it's a Euro stablecoin. Euro stablecoins are definitely big. We already know that there's a Euro stablecoin launching on the XRP ledger. I think it's Euro P. That's one that I'm still actually looking at as well, because again, any stablecoin around the European area is a big deal because of the MiCA, compliance that they have to go through. But outside of that, right, the US dollar stablecoin that they're launching on Ethereum and Solana is a big deal because we just continue to see more and more of these types of moves happening. And USD stablecoins right now are the big move. Why? Well, because we know that the US is going all in on digital assets and also on US dollar denominated stablecoins. But on top of that, we go over here to the Clarity Act, right? I don't think that I need to replay this clip. I just played it in a video earlier yesterday or so. And this is the Clarity Act, right? It's heading to the House floor. This already got passed through, okay? Now, on top of the Clarity, bill, we're mainly focused on the Genius bill. The Genius bill is a very, very big deal. Don't get me wrong, the Clarity Act was a huge one, but the Genius bill is the next one that we need to pay attention to. That's going to unlock the stablecoin market in a big way. Now, Brad Garlinghouse gave us a warning at XRP Las Vegas. We heard a massive sea change is coming. Big shout out to Digital Asset Investor for this video. A massive sea change is coming. Brad Garlinghouse at XRP Las Vegas 2025. Check it out.
So, I mean, look, this is going to sound a little hyperbole, but it is an amazing time to be alive and see the shift of headwinds to tailwinds. And I think people still underestimate how profound that will be when the largest economy in the world and the most important regulatory bodies in the world go from being hostile, openly and actively hostile and counterproductive, to constructive, to how do we partner with this industry. It's a massive sea change. I think people underestimate how consequential that will be over 2025, 2026 and beyond. Now, one of the things in the Hidden Road acquisition particularly, I think Ripple tries to be a little bit, we're kind of at the infrastructure layer. We try to think about where the world is going and make bets that are going to play out over years. I've always talked about, and this community particularly has been extremely patient as we have fought some frustrating fights. But the Hidden Road acquisition is really about continuing to build bridges between traditional finance and decentralized finance. And I think if you believe that it's just going to be, okay, the DeFi world is just going to grow and replace it, I don't believe that. We have to bridge that gap. And Ripple has been working around our payments business and bridging that gap for almost a decade. And for me, Hidden Road represents, if we want the largest market makers, the largest hedge funds in the world to come into this ecosystem, we need the infrastructure to enable that. Hidden Road is one of the fastest growing non-bank prime brokers. Most of the players in the prime broker space are the traditional commercial banks. And for those guys have been hostile towards crypto because of the regulatory dynamic. That's changing a little bit, but Hidden Road, I think, is a subtle, almost flex to their hundreds of clients, names you've heard of, the largest financial players in the world that are using Hidden Road. They cleared $3 trillion last year. They're growing very quickly, and frankly, with Ripple's balance sheet, we're only going to see that accelerate. That's great for the XRP ecosystem. That's great for RLUSD. And I will keep reminding people, Ripple is completely committed to what we can do to make XRP the most trusted, the most useful, and the most liquid digital asset on the planet. We will always be committed to that.
So yeah, I mean, listen, right now we are witnessing some of the biggest moves happening in the US market. And, I think that the entire change that's happened in the last 12 months is extremely recognizable. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see, but this is exactly why I said things can change almost immediately around crypto. It's not just about price action, right? We're not just talking about price action when, we talk about, oh yeah, we could see, the price of these assets go absolutely crazy in, 3 months, for an example, or in just, a day or two. It's not just about price action. Everything happening around tech happens so quick. And the reason why I've always stated this is because think about what's going on outside of the US. Technology does not sleep. If the technology is that disruptive, if it's that efficient, if you could do things that were not possible before with this tech, guess what? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be adopted whether or not the US wants to do it or not. And the second that we witness any additional nation pushing forward on these tech races, we take it serious. That's why even now we're starting to see the US making all of these big moves, because we recognize that now is the time to take action, because it's becoming too big to ignore. And talking about the sea change, let's actually go over here. This is Senator John Thune. He actually said this earlier yesterday on the 11th. Senator John Thune says cryptocurrency is here to stay, and it's time that we bring it into the mainstream. Check it out.
President, a significant number of Americans are engaging with cryptocurrency. That includes Americans who use stablecoins. And then there are the individuals and businesses around the world that access the American dollar through the use of dollar-backed stablecoins. Mr. President, stablecoins are a relatively recent financial innovation, but they've quickly caught on. They offer easy payments with the speed and security of the blockchain and the stability and usability of the dollar bill. There are roughly $250 billion of them now in circulation. Traditional financial institutions are said to be considering getting into the stablecoin business. And companies like Uber and Airbnb are reportedly exploring integrating them into their businesses. Mr. President, it's clear that cryptocurrency is here to stay. And it's time that we bring it into the mainstream. Passing the Genius Act is a good first step. The Genius Act would provide a clear regulatory framework for stablecoins. It would ensure Americans can trust who they're doing business with when they purchase stablecoins, allowing the American people to exercise financial freedom with confidence. The Genius Act would also protect against threats to our national security and from criminal activity. It would require stablecoin issuers to uphold the same standards as other financial institutions to monitor and report suspicious activity, comply with U.S. sanctions, and block illicit transactions.
Yeah, and on top of this, right, it's not just about, making sure that cryptocurrency is going mainstream. It's about how the US is going to enable this by integrating it within the US system. That's how we make it go mainstream. That's why even now, as US banks are preparing for stablecoin initiatives, while all of our regulators gave the green light to big banks to do this, we must, as retail investors, we must focus on the connections between these banks and these public networks. Why? Because that's exactly how we get rich. We invest into the networks that they are going to launch these stablecoins on. We look at the significant connections between, big banks and specific networks. And of course, these big banks launching stablecoins, that's going to lead to mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency. That's going to, lead to crypto also going mainstream. But on top of this, right, we go over here to U.S. Senate votes to advance Genius Act crypto stablecoin bill. This was, of course, on the 11th. We got this update from Tim Scott, Chairman Senator Tim Scott pledges to prioritize digital assets on banking GOP. With the Genius Act, Chairman Scott is delivering on that promise. Check it out.
When I became chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, I promised to prioritize innovation, accountability, and smart regulation in the evolving digital economy. And we have the opportunity to deliver on that promise. The Genius Act will be the most significant digital assets legislation ever to pass the U.S. Senate. It's the product of months of bipartisan work. And I also want to thank the bill's sponsor, Bill Hagerty, who went out of his way to make this legislation a bipartisan success by partnering with Senator Alsobrooks, working with Senator Gillibrand, along with our colleagues on this side of the aisle, Senator Lummis and myself. I am incredibly proud to see the hard work of Senator Hagerty pay off, not for him, but for the American people. That's what makes this process such a special one. It's what makes the United States Senate the most deliberative body in the world today. This is a victory for working families, small businesses, and everyday Americans who deserve faster, cheaper, and safer access to financial services. It's a win for innovation because this framework will give entrepreneurs the confidence to build here in the United States of America and not abroad. And it's a win for national security because the Genius Act brings stablecoin issuers under strict anti-money laundering standards, cracking down on bad actors at home and abroad.
So, yeah, I mean, right now, this is the last major thing that we have to focus on for stablecoin initiatives. Because the second that this is passed through, everything else is already in place. All of the regulators already gave the big banks green lights. All of the big banks have been preparing for stablecoin initiatives. Now, the Genius Act, which is going to really kind of prioritize not only digital asset adoption, but stablecoin initiatives, this is going to unlock the entire digital asset market in the US. This is that sea change. This is that massive push to make sure that digital assets and digital currencies in the US reach their true potential. I am very excited about this. I think everyone should pay attention to this. I think everyone should, really focus on this as well, especially if you want to get, very wealthy off this big push on digital currencies. We are in the beginning stages of that digital currency revolution, and fiat currency is moving on chain faster than we ever thought possible. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out.